Welcome to the Prof Talk Pod, brought to you by the Engaged Professor. Every 2 weeks, join us as we talk about tips and tricks to help you connect with your students, engage with industry, and stay up to date on all the teaching trends. We'll give you actionable strategies that will help improve your teaching today. Thank you for being here. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Prof Talk Pod. My name is Becky Aiken, and I am excited today to bring you this solo style show where we're going to talk a little bit about something you can do at the end of the semester to really help yourself as you look forward to the next time you teach the courses you're teaching today. So I want to just take you back to a few weeks ago. I'm teaching the Introduction to Professional Performance course at KU for the third semester in a row. Now, the first semester, I had just 8 students in the class. And while I had a plan for what I wanted to do, the way things work with 8 students can be quite different. If just 2 people are gone, you might have to rework your entire in class activity. Some in class activities don't take as long or are only a partner versus the group or sometimes even individual. And I then taught the next semester with about 20 students and made a lot of adjustments along the way. Now, a few weeks ago in this course, we were working through an in class activity. And I remember looking around at the students and thinking to myself, they seem a little bored and maybe even confused. And I almost had this deja vu moment where I thought to myself, this sounds a little familiar to how it felt last semester when I talked about financial implications in professional performance, and we talked about business models and tax structures. And it dawned on me that this same activity didn't work great last semester either. I didn't give them enough information. I went a little too quickly. They had questions, but they weren't sure how to ask those questions because the topic was so new to them, not something they had thought about or talked about in previous courses. And it really hit me that I had forgotten that this didn't work very well the previous semester. Now, that might really ring true to you. That might be something that has happened to you in the past. You get through a lecture and you realize that you forgot to update some of your examples or some data from a previous report that gets put out every year, and you have 2024 data when you should have 2025 or 2026 data in your presentation. And when it happens in the moment, it might have caught you off guard because you're certain you meant to change it. You're certain you thought through this and you put in your brain that you were going to do something different next semester. I know that's what I was thinking. I know I was thinking, oh, I had planned to come up with a better plan for how to talk about this topic, to how to share this content for this upcoming semester. But why didn't I? Why didn't I remember that I was going to change this one small part of the class? And this is a class that I teach every semester. So in theory, it had only really been 4 or 5 months since I last taught this topic in this specific course, since I had thought about how my approach to it could be improved, wasn't really hitting the way I wanted it to hit. And that's not that much time. For a lot of us, it's an entire year before we teach the same course. Now, what happens for me at the end of the semester is I'm bogged down with grading. If you've been a listener for a while, you know that I have some policies that allow students to submit revised work to earn additional points in their grade up until the final day of classes. And so the last couple weeks are pretty intense. I try to turn around grades as quickly as possible to make sure that students know what they need to do to earn the grade they want to earn before the final exam or final project is due. So it gets pretty intense. And by the end of that, I am often very tired. And when I get the grades submitted and go to graduation, I want to just not think about teaching for even just a couple of weeks. And those couple of weeks turn into forgetting to go back and think about the things that I want to change for next time. Now, for me, this is the cycle that has been happening for a lot of years. because I teach the same topics over again, it often allows me to remember it after I forget it the first time. Like, for example, with this class, I will certainly remember to change it for the fall because it's so prevalent in my brain right now. But I keep thinking to myself, there has to be a better way. And not long ago, one of my colleagues mentioned to me that she creates for every class essentially a Word document. And you might have met Katie or heard Katie talk on the podcast before. She's been a regular guest of ours. And she mentioned that she creates a just a document where she writes notes to herself throughout the semester. She reminds herself she after it happens, here's what worked really well, here's what didn't work, here's an idea I had for an improving an assignment, or here's a reading that I'll need to replace or update. And that file becomes a repository, a safe place to keep all of those things that popped into her head throughout the semester so that when it comes time to plan for the class, either the following fall or at the end of the fall semester for the next spring, she can open that document and she can actually see what she was thinking. And ahead of time, think about what needs to be changed or edited in the course. And I know many of us are not on contract until sometimes the day classes start, but we have to get our classes ready before then. And maybe we're 2 weeks out doing that. If you are really motivated, occasionally, maybe you're a month out in the summer getting those courses updated. But generally speaking, it's something we do maybe a week before classes start for classes we have taught before. Now, if it's a new prep, a new course, you're probably taking a little more lead time. But if this is a class you've taught before, it is very easy to kind of rinse and repeat, right? Just save the syllabus with a new semester on it. Maybe update the due dates. If you have a course schedule, update the days that class will be, match it with your conference calendar, make sure that the days that you won't have class are clear on the syllabus. Then you maybe update a policy or two. Maybe university has added some required policies or changed them. Maybe you wanted to update your AI policy, and so you did that. But essentially, you save it as fall 26, spring 27, and you upload it. You copy your Canvas course over or your D2L course over, maybe even your Blackboard course over, and you're good to go. And then you start the semester and just things kind of go as regular, as normal. That's pretty normal and there's nothing entirely wrong with that approach except for that it's very easy to forget when there are things you know you want to do differently, when there are things you are certain could improve the student experience, enhance their learning, and make it a more enjoyable classroom environment for all. So, my recommendation as you think about what to do as we get toward the end of the semester, if you haven't started this file yet, if you haven't created a blank Word document or Google Doc, even a notes app on your phone, a OneNote notebook, however you like to organize your work, if you haven't done that, create one for each class and spend just 10 minutes today for each class writing out what you remember right now, what you remember about what went really well that you definitely want to do again, what didn't go so well that you want to think about ways that you could change, and what you definitely want to ditch, and put everything you can in that file for now. Do that again when your semester ends so that you have it all in one place. And then if you're like me and you like to walk away for a couple weeks, you can do so knowing that you have recorded and organized your thoughts in one place that you can go back to. Now, the key is to put on your calendar a reminder on the day that you typically plan classes. So, if you are someone who starts 2 weeks ahead of class time or a week ahead of class time in the fall, put a reminder on your calendar to check that file. Put it on there now because you might, in fact, forget that you even created it by this time in August. Now, it's helpful if you have a folder structure where you save all of your course content for each course because you can save that file within that folder. If you get more and more advanced, if you're great at using headings, you can actually use the headings formatting style within Word to create a heading for each semester to help you map your thought process. Maybe something was just okay, but you want to keep an eye on it. So you might put that assignment in a category of keeping eye on or consider evaluating this in a future semester. And that way you get to basically document your thought process as you go. In a world where there are a lot of tools to help us with organization, you could also, if you want to, just dictate this to your favorite generative AI platform or to a chatbot that you like using. Just dictate that information and have it help organize your thoughts into a clear pattern of what I loved, what I want to ditch, what I want to think about. There are ways to make this more accessible and easier for you so that you actually do it. I recognize that I gave you one more thing to do at the end of the semester, not one less. And if you are like me, you are probably drowning in grading by about now, but I can promise you that your future self will thank you if you just take those few minutes to do it now. Now, we talked about putting on your calendar to do this in the fall to make sure you check this file, but you could also put on your calendar right now for the spring, sometime during finals week, to actually take the 10, 15, 20 minutes to write out your thoughts. They don't have to be pretty, they don't have to be complete sentences. Bullet points are great, but anything you can do to record how the class went. Now, if you want to keep pushing just a little bit further, you can think about how those course evals will get released to you. Your university will be different than mine. It might be 3 weeks after finals, it might be a month after finals, it might be 2 months after finals where you have access to those course evals. But one opportunity you might think about is going to those course evals, copying and pasting the student comments, those open ended comments that they give you, putting those into the file and categorizing them with your own thoughts, seeing where there are areas of agreement. Now, again, this is something that you might, especially if your university has a license to Claude or Copilot, you might ask for some help matching your thoughts with the student feedback. But this can really empower and help reinforce the things you think are working well, and also maybe give you insight into things not only that could be improved, but actually how they could be improved. And that will really take this self reflection and this analysis of your course and make it even better because it's driven by student feedback as well. There's always a caveat that there may be things you do in a course that students aren't particularly fond of, that take a lot of time, that are frustrating, and that might be purposeful. I like to call this intentional friction that I often integrate into assignments in ways that are designed to help students learn. And sometimes those things mean that we keep things even if students don't like them. And sometimes we keep things in our course even though we don't love the way they went. But it's this process of continual reflection and intentional integration of that reflection into our work that will make us better teachers, that will make us more grounded in what students need and what the industry and the world is looking for as we think about intentional ways to reflect on the work that we do. Now, one last thought before we end this episode. This can be really useful if you have multiple faculty who teach multiple sections of the same course. For us in the professional performance program, we have an intro to professional performance course that right now has 2 in-person sections and 2 online sections. And there are 2 different instructors for the online course. And then one instructor teaches online and in person, and the other in person section is taught by a different instructor. For us, that course is really valuable for including our own experience. And I didn't want to have just one person teach all of intro because we have different interesting perspectives to bring to the class. And so for me, it was important to allow different faculty the opportunity to teach that course. It is also a course where we get a lot of students who are non majors in, and having different faculty teach those courses kind of allows students to self select a faculty who might have an experience closer to their own or might be able to speak on something they're more interested in. So it's intentional that we have multiple faculty teaching that course. However, we want to keep all the learning outcomes the same and all the major assignments the same. All of those things are the same across the online and in person sections of the course. And how you get to those major assignments, the lectures you create, that you have some freedom in, but the core content, the core learning objectives, and the core assignments are all the same. The only way that continues to work is by creating this file where we all essentially crowdsource how the semester went and what are the things that we might need to change based on our own experience and our student feedback. And this file becomes a place where all of our thoughts and comments can be put together to look for areas of agreement or even to look for ideas of how to push the thing that we didn't think worked very well a little more forward. And so I think it can be even more important to create these documents where you write down what you think and why you think it and what you might want to change so that you can have more agreement across courses that are taught by different instructors, but are for the same program and have the same goal. This is something we created this spring for every single course we teach. It has its own document. That document lives in our shared folder where all of the content we use to teach our courses exists. Faculty have the freedom to take a lecture that's already in there and make it their own, but we like to share those things back across so that we can be the best for our students as a team. That is something that we in professional performance have a little bit of a opportunity to do because we are a brand new degree program. We are unlike most other programs that exist in the world and we're building from the ground up. But it might be something that as you look at your university and your classes and the way that they're structured, you might want to consider as well. Over all of the years that I have been teaching and thinking about teaching and talking about teaching, the most important thing that I've learned is that we are all better teachers when we talk with each other and learn from each other. I've gotten some really fantastic ideas from my colleagues at other universities who teach the same classes that I do, and building in intentional ways to collaborate with the people who are at your institution can really help you drive a course forward and better meet student expectations and help student learning. So, as you close the book on the spring 2026 semester, give yourself the opportunity, give yourself the time, make the time to reflect, write it down, and save it somewhere where you can revisit later. Thank you for listening. If this was valuable to you, please share it with a friend or a colleague. You can find us on Apple or Spotify or on YouTube. We would love your ratings and reviews to help our podcast get found. And we hope you will join us again next time.